Buongiorno, Principessa. What if I told you one of the most beloved films about hope and love during wartime was almost never made, and that behind its gentle smile lay chaos, tears, and near disaster at every turn? Life is Beautiful wasn't just a heartwarming fable of a father's sacrifice. It was a cinematic tightrope walk over a minefield of budget shortfalls, studio skepticism, and emotional exhaustion. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 15 of the weirdest, wildest, and most unknown facts about Life is Beautiful. From secret messages hidden in costume design to a child actor who didn't even know he was in a Holocaust film. If you're ready to see this masterpiece in a whole new light, smash that like button. And let's begin. Roberto Benigni mortgaged his house to fund the film. In the 1990s, no Italian studio would back a comedy set in a Holocaust camp, calling it tone-deaf and career suicide. Undeterred, Roberto Benigni risked everything. He didn't just drain his savings. He took a second mortgage on his Florence home to keep production alive. At one point, payroll froze for 2 weeks, and crew members worked on trust alone, eating cold pasta on set. Benigni later confessed, "I didn't sleep for months. Every morning I woke up wondering if today was the day we shut down." Behind the film's gentle humor lay raw desperation, a director betting his future on a story few believed in. He even sold his vintage car in secret to cover fuel costs for location shoots. Yet this gamble birthed a masterpiece. The film earned over $230 million worldwide and won 3 Oscars. But its true cost, nights of anxiety, sacrifice, and unwavering faith that love could outshine cynicism, even when the bank account said otherwise. The child actor had no idea the movie was about the Holocaust. 6-year-old Giorgio Cantarini, who played Giosuè, had no idea he was filming a Holocaust story. To protect his innocence, Roberto Benigni invented an elaborate fiction. The camp was a big game, barbed wire was movie magic, and following the rules would win him a real tank. Cantarini believed every word. "I thought we were playing hide and seek with sad people," he said years later. This protective lie shielded the boy from trauma, but placed immense emotional strain on Benigni, who toggled between manic joy on camera and quiet solemnity off it. The crew respected the charade, never breaking character around the child. This approach yielded astonishing authenticity. Cantarini's reactions weren't acted. They were real responses to a world he thought was playful. Only after the film's release did his parents gently explain the truth. The result is one of cinema's most heartbreakingly genuine child performances, not because he understood the stakes, but because he didn't. The script was rewritten nightly, based on dailies. Roberto Benigni treated the screenplay like a living document, not a fixed blueprint. Every night, after reviewing dailies, he'd rewrite scenes based on emotional truth rather than plot logic. The now iconic German translation sequence, entirely improvised on set, then retrofitted into the script. Even the library scene where Guido finds Dora's favorite book was added after Benigni noticed young Cantarini curiously flipping through books during lunch. This fluid method frustrated producers worried about continuity and budget overruns, but Benigni insisted the heart knows the right path, not the page. His process blurred lines between director, writer, and performer, turning the set into a collaborative emotional laboratory. Scenes evolved through intuition, not notes. While risky, this organic approach gave the film its breath-like rhythm, natural, unpredictable, and deeply human. What feels like spontaneity on screen was, in fact, disciplined responsiveness to the moment, proving that sometimes the best stories aren't written, they're discovered. The camp set was built inside a real, abandoned military barracks. To achieve haunting realism without CGI, Benigni filmed the concentration camp scenes in a derelict Italian military barracks near Rome. The site was so decrepit that mold spores filled the aircrew members wore masks just to breathe. Rain dripped through shattered roofs, forcing the art department to constantly dry uniforms and props between takes. Benigni refused polished sets. Every rusted bunk, cracked wall, and stained concrete floor was authentic. "This place had memory in its bones," he said. The location's oppressive silence unnerved even seasoned crew. Conversations hushed instinctively, as if history itself watched. This eerie atmosphere seeped into every frame, lending the fiction a chilling credibility. No set designer could replicate the weight of real neglect. By choosing decay over construction, Benigni anchored fantasy in tangible truth. The barracks didn't just house the story, they haunted it, ensuring that even in a film about imagination, reality never fully disappeared. Benigni originally wanted to play the German officer, not Guido. Early in development, Roberto Benigni envisioned himself not as Guido, but as the camp's icy, bureaucratic commandant, a figure embodying the banality of evil through dark satire. He wanted to dissect how ordinary men commit atrocities through paperwork and polite indifference, but after months of writing, he realized the story lacked warmth. A film about cruelty needs a counterforce, he said. So he flipped the script. He'd play the clown who fights horror with love. This pivot transformed Life is Beautiful from a cynical critique into a defiant hymn to imagination. Guido's humor became armor, his lies acts of courage. Interestingly, the discarded villain concept resurfaced years later in Benigni's Pinocchio, where he played a cold, authoritarian figure. Some ideas never die, they simply wait for the right story. By choosing empathy over indictment, Benigni didn't just save his film, he gave it a soul. The film almost got banned in Germany. Before its German release, Life is Beautiful faced fierce resistance. Cultural advisors and historians warned that blending comedy with Holocaust imagery risked trivializing history. One called it dangerously naive. Distributors panicked, even changing the title from Das Leben ist schön, Life is Beautiful, to Ein Vater fürs Leben, A Father for Life, to mute its optimistic tone. Private screenings for Holocaust educators and survivor groups were arranged to gauge response. To many's surprise, survivors praised how the film made the era emotionally accessible to young Germans without graphic violence. It opens doors textbooks cannot, one said. Still, the debate raged for months. Only after these endorsements did German censors relent. The controversy proved Benigni's approach walked a razor's edge, but also that compassion, when rooted in respect, can bridge even the deepest wounds of history. The tank Josue wins was a real Soviet T-34. The green tank that rolls triumphantly into the square in the film's finale wasn't a Hollywood prop. It was a fully restored, decommissioned Soviet T-34, an actual World War II relic. Locating a functional model took the production team weeks, as most surviving T-34s were either museum exhibits or rusted shells. Once found, the crew painstakingly refurbished it to running condition, ensuring it could move through the narrow Italian streets. When it finally arrived on set, young Giorgio Cantarini had no idea what to expect, having been told only that a real war toy was coming. His stunned, gleeful reaction was entirely genuine. The thunderous growl of the engine and the clatter of metal treads on cobblestone overwhelmed his 6-year-old imagination. Benigni captured the moment in one take, knowing authenticity couldn't be faked. That tank wasn't just a symbol of liberation. It was a real artifact of war, repurposed as an emblem of hope, proof that even machines built for destruction can, in the right story, carry joy. Benigni's wife co-wrote the story but refused credit. Nicoletta Braschi, Roberto Benigni's real-life wife, and the actress who portrays Dora in Life is Beautiful, played a pivotal but uncredited role in shaping the film's emotional core. While Benigni is publicly celebrated as the film's sole writer and visionary, insiders confirmed that Braschi was deeply involved in crafting the screenplay during late-night sessions at their home in Tuscany. Most significantly, she insisted that Dora's character evolve beyond the archetype of the passive romantic interest. She pushed for Dora to actively choose to follow her family into the concentration camp, a moment that transforms her from a bystander into a figure of quiet defiance. Roberto is the dreamer, Braschi once said in a rare interview. I'm the one who makes sure the dream has a spine. Her influence is evident in every maternal glance and every moment of resolve Dora displays. Without Braschi's input, the film might have lacked its crucial emotional counterbalance. Guido's whimsy grounded by Dora's strength. Though she declined formal writing credit to preserve the perception of a singular artistic vision, her fingerprints are woven into the narrative's very fabric. This act of creative humility mirrors the film's central theme. Love often works best in the shadows, unseen but essential. The German translation scene used real gibberish. One of the film's most iconic comedic sequences, where Guido impersonates a German translator and spouts utter nonsense, was the result of meticulous linguistic engineering, not random improvisation. Roberto Benigni spent weeks studying the cadence, intonation, and mouth movements of native German speakers to ensure his fabricated Italian lines matched the rhythm of a real military address. Phrases like "Mangia la minestra col cucchiaio di legno," "eat the soup with a wooden spoon," were carefully chosen not just for absurdity, but for how they mimicked German phonetics. The result? A performance so convincing that the German-speaking extras on set had no idea they were being mocked, and when they finally understood, they burst into genuine laughter during filming. Benigni, recognizing the authenticity of their reaction, kept the take. This moment exemplifies the film's genius. What appears to be slapstick is, in truth, a masterclass in comedic timing and linguistic mimicry. The scene walks a razor's edge between humor and horror, using absurdity as both shield and weapon. It's not just funny, it's resistance disguised as farce, a clown's rebellion against the machinery of oppression, delivered with perfect comic precision. The film's score was composed in just 10 days. The hauntingly beautiful score of Life is Beautiful, now inseparable from its emotional impact, was created under extraordinary pressure. Legendary composer Ennio Morricone was brought in at the last minute after the original musician dropped out, leaving him with only 10 days to compose, record, and mix the entire soundtrack before the film's Cannes premiere. Locked in his Roman studio, Morricone worked around the clock, drawing inspiration from childhood memories, particularly a lullaby his grandmother used to sing. From that tender recollection emerged the now iconic Buongiorno Principessa theme, a melody that dances between whimsy and melancholy. The rushed timeline forced rawness into every note. There was no room for overpolish, only pure emotional instinct. Morricone later reflected, "Roberto didn't ask for music. He asked for a heartbeat." The score's power lies in its duality: playful piano motifs for the early romance, somber strings for the camp sequences, all seamlessly woven into a sonic tapestry that mirrors the film's delicate balance. What could have been a compromised effort became one of Morricone's most beloved works, proof that inspiration thrives even under fire. It was rejected by every major U.S. studio. After its triumphant premiere at Cannes, Life is Beautiful faced an unexpected wall of resistance in Hollywood. Every major U.S. studio passed on distribution, citing concerns that American audiences wouldn't accept a comedy set in a Holocaust concentration camp. Executives labeled it too European, tonally confusing, and commercially unviable. One reportedly scoffed, "No one wants to laugh in a concentration camp." The film lingered in limbo until Miramax co-chair Harvey Weinstein saw it at a private screening and wept. Convinced of its power, he acquired the rights. But even then, Miramax executives pushed for drastic edits, including shortening the camp sequences to lighten the tone. Benigni refused, threatening to withdraw the film entirely. A tense standoff ensued, resolved only after test screenings moved audiences to tears. The studio relented, and the film was released intact. It went on to become the highest-grossing foreign-language film in U.S. history at the time, earning over $57 million domestically and winning 3 Academy Awards. What Hollywood dismissed as a liability became a landmark, a reminder that sometimes the most human stories defy market logic. Benigni improvised the Oscar speech and almost got booed. When Roberto Benigni won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1999, the first non-English performance ever to do so, he didn't just accept the trophy. He leapt over theater seats, waved his arms like a jubilant conductor, and shouted, "Thank you, movie gods," to a stunned audience. The entire speech was improvised. Backstage, producers had urged him to keep it brief and dignified. Instead, he delivered a 2-minute stream of consciousness tribute in broken English, quoting Dante and calling cinema the most beautiful fraud in the world. Initial reactions were mixed. Some audience members groaned, mistaking his exuberance for disrespect. But within seconds, the room erupted in applause. Critics later debated whether it was unprofessional, but fans recognized it for what it was: Guido, in the flesh, unfiltered, irrepressible joy in a room built on restraint. The moment crystallized Benigni's artistic spirit: emotion over etiquette, heart over protocol. Far from a misstep, it became one of Oscar history's most memorable speeches, not because it was polished, but because it was real. In that chaotic burst of gratitude, the line between performer and character vanished. The film changed Italian Holocaust education. Before Life is Beautiful, Holocaust education in Italian schools was sparse, often reduced to dry historical footnotes or skipped entirely. But the film's overwhelming popularity, especially among teenagers, ignited a national reckoning. Teachers began using it as an entry point to discuss fascism, deportation, and moral courage. Within 2 years, the Italian Ministry of Education revised its curriculum to include more personal survivor testimonies and deeper analysis of Italy's role in the Holocaust. While some survivor groups initially criticized the film for its comedic approach, many later acknowledged its unique ability to engage young minds. It made students ask questions they'd never asked before, said one high school history teacher in Rome. They wanted to know, was this real? Did children survive? What happened to people like Dora? The film didn't replace historical rigor. It sparked curiosity that led students toward it. In this way, Life is Beautiful became more than entertainment. It was a cultural catalyst, proving that emotional storytelling can open doors that textbooks alone cannot. Its legacy lives on in classrooms where empathy begins with a father's lie to save his son. The game rules were based on real survival tactics. Guido's central deception that the concentration camp is a complex game where points lead to a real tank was not merely a screenwriter's invention. Holocaust historians have documented real cases of parents using similar fictions to shield their children from the terror of Nazi camps. One survivor, now in her 90s, recalled her father telling her they were on a secret mission for the king, and that silence and obedience would earn them medals. Another described being told the barracks were a special boarding school. Benigni studied these accounts during his research, ensuring that Guido's actions resonated with historical truth. This transforms the film's heart from fantasy into testimony. The game isn't whimsy. It's an act of desperate love, a psychological shield forged in unimaginable darkness. By anchoring Guido's heroism in real survival strategies, Life is Beautiful honors the quiet courage of parents who used imagination as armor. It reminds us that in the face of evil, storytelling itself can be resistance, a way to preserve humanity, even when the world tries to erase it. The final shot was filmed in one take by accident. The film's closing image, Geosway, beaming atop a real Soviet T-34 tank as American soldiers cheer, is one of cinema's most uplifting moments. Yet, it was never meant to be captured in a single, unbroken wide shot. Director Roberto Benigni had planned 3 camera angles to ensure coverage, but during the first take, something magical happened. A flock of white doves burst from nearby trees and soared across the sky. Benigni, sensing serendipity, yelled, "Keep rolling!" The entire crew held their breath as the camera stayed wide, capturing the child's wonder, the soldier's joy, and the bird's flight, all in real time. Seconds after the doves vanished, the film reel ran out. There was no second take. The moment was gone. That single, unplanned shot became the final frame of the movie. No edits, no enhancements, just pure, fleeting beauty. In a film about finding grace in chaos, the ending was itself a perfect metaphor. Hope rarely arrives on schedule, but when it does, you must be ready to capture it, even if it exhausts your last strip of film. Life is Beautiful wasn't just a movie. It was a rebellion against despair, against silence, against the idea that some stories are too painful to tell with joy. And now, you know the secrets that made it immortal. If this changed how you see the film, hit like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs a little beauty today, because sometimes the greatest acts of courage begin with a smile. Buongiorno, Principessa.